Joining us now in the studio to talk about the election is our political analyst, Dr. Bob Holsworth. And Dr. Bob, does any of this surprise you?
What surprises me is the way that it's been reported in some fashion. Clearly, there should have been a better effort made to inform the citizens about that these are the votes that have come in today, these are the votes that are going to come in from absentee, and here is the total expected vote. So in reality, let us say the Freitas-Spanberger race, which I think is going to wind up to be fairly close, and I don't know who's going to win that. Freitas looks like he's so far ahead that it's uncatchable right now. But the reality is that it's not 80% of the precincts reported. They have about 35 to 40% of the total vote that's in. And what we don't have, for the most part, are all the absentee ballots that were cast. And what we know in this election, from what people have told us already, is that Republicans were more likely to vote today. Democrats were more likely to vote early. So I think it would have been incumbent, really, on the State Board of Elections when they report the numbers on their website, if they had told us, here is the vote from today, here's the percentage of absentee ballots in each district, and it would make more sense to citizens. And I'm really worried that people are going to get even more cynical about the political process because this has not been reported with the kind of delicacy and accuracy and nuance that I think would have been helpful.
Yeah, because when you say 87% reporting, it's as if it's not really the full 87% of that 87%. It's, I don't know, half, or you said perhaps 30, 35% of the vote has been tallied, and we're still waiting on the bulk of the earlier votes, which may skew a different way.
Well, people must think that, somehow, things are crazy. That, you're looking at, there's, 65 or 70% of the vote in the Senate race. Mark Warner's way behind. The AP's called it. What in the world's going on? And what's going on is something that's happening in every state right now because we have to divide the early vote from the vote for today and at least tell people what vote they're receiving when they're seeing all of these numbers. And to report 80% of the precincts have reported when we haven't reported the absentee ballots of 90% of those precincts, that's really problematic. And I'm really sorry that the voters are going in Virginia and in this region have this kind of confusion going on tonight.
And there was already a lot of confusion going into the election. So what kind of impact do you think that this might have on the public?
Well, what I worry about is that, I'm a political scientist. I want people to participate in the democratic process. I want them to have confidence in the democratic process. And I don't like it when all of a sudden, because of what I would think is reporting that's not sufficiently detailed, people are going to become more cynical, more suspicious of what happens in the democratic process. And that can't be a good thing for any of us, Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whatever.
Yeah, in fact, the Elections Commissioner, Chris Piper, has said that expect a massive number of votes to come out at 11 p.m. That is the time he's giving all the registrars to tally what they've tallied so far in terms of those absentee ballots. Now that starts to make sense when we realize that we're only seeing really these partial results of 80%. It's not 80%, but that by 11 o'clock, we will get, in a sense, a huge vote dump coming out.
Right. And so if you look at the state website, they don't make that distinction. Fortunately, for those of us who are kind of in the weeds, there's vpap.org, vpap.org, and they are actually presenting the results in terms of what they call the expected vote, as well as the percentage of precincts that you have right now. And that makes some sense for people.
So with that being said, what could we see once all the votes are counted?
Well, I would presume at the end of the day, Daniel Gade is not going to beat Mark Warner for the Senate. I don't know what's going to happen in the presidential race, but I think that certainly that Joe Biden would remain the favorite in Virginia. And I believe we're going to have a very competitive race in which either Nick Freitas or Abigail Spanberger will win. But if you look at the results that are on that website right now, I looked at them before I came out here, they have Bobby Scott behind, Donald McEachin behind, two Democrats who are actually going to cruise to re-election, but because they're not putting that early vote out, you're getting a very misleading perspective of what's happening. And by and large, I know that they don't have that early vote yet, so they can't put it out, but at least they could tell us that
Split it up
this
so
is what's happening here. And they're not doing that, and it's fueling, when people see these numbers, a lot of suspicion and cynicism about what's going on.
And you can understand why. How did we get here? Is it because of the historical election or because of COVID? Like, it kind of seems unorganized.
Well, I think what's happened is that because there's so much early voting, the reporting hasn't actually caught up with the reality of how people are voting in Virginia and the other states. Now, we've heard about this in some other states. We've been told, for example, about, Pennsylvania is going to take some time, or Michigan's going to take some time because they're battleground states. But it's taking time in every state right now, or at least in most states that didn't start counting until this evening. And if the public hasn't been sufficiently informed, all they're going to do at best is be confused, and at worst, they're going to be suspicious.
All right, thank you, Bob. We're going to check back in with you in the next 30 minutes or so.